Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about something important that I discovered in my life after hitting a very, very difficult moment. I call it the moment where I ended up on the cliff. And it was a low in my life and a moment that forced a giant transformation. Everything that I had known, the life I had built, the plans I had came to an end. That happens in life. Everybody at one moment in their lives gonna hit a moment of pain. They're gonna lose a job. They're gonna go through a divorce. They're gonna have a disease. It's part of life. Well, I had my moment, and coming out of that, came a massive transformation. And I embarked on a journey, and the journey was about trying to find what is the path out when you hit a hole. And many things happened. And what I'm going to do in this video, as I walk along this beautiful place here on the Mediterranean, it's called Lustica Bay here in Montenegro. I'm going to share just some stories of this journey, of this unlock that happened in my life. So, all right, well, let's start. And I won't go into all the details, but one of the things I realized is there was no clarity of how you get out. Like when it looks like everything ahead looks dark, when the storm is on you, on your life, when depression is seeping in, when you can't get up on a Sunday morning out of your bed. And I've always been an optimistic, high energy, tons of ideas person. So I couldn't recognize myself. It was hard. It was painful. When inside of you, there's so much pain that it just drains you. And I didn't know how to get out of that. I decided, I had this moment when I was standing atop of this cliff in Corsica. And I went. I had this moment of realization on that trip that was it. The life that I had built was over. I had to start a new one. And I had this, I just went wandering, just massive pain inside to this cliff. And I had this realization that, well, I was gonna have to rebuild a new life. And if I didn't, I would just spiral down out of control. I had no choice. I had to get out of this hole. I could see, and it was the beginning. I mean, I went so much deeper after that moment. But I decided at that moment, deep within me, that this transformation would lead me to a new version of myself. A better version, an inspired version, a version where life is full again. And it was hard because in that moment, being so low and feeling so horrible, it was kind of just like saying, oh yeah, believe in the future. But I promised myself, I made a promise. I looked out around me and I made a promise to say, this is the start of a transformation. And I embarked on that journey. I realized that, the information out there about what to do to be happy, to feel good, to be inspired, is not great. It's contradicting. It's full of, information which is not helpful or actually lead you. I mean, I followed the path of what was to be successful. I did what society said, I built a family, I built a career, got a great job, started to make good money, had children, and that was it. That's the path. That's what you're supposed to do. And, well, it didn't work out. But, I mean, I can't say it didn't work out. It's just it led me, the decisions I made, the life I was living, led me to a point where I was there and everything was crumbling around me. So I realized that the information out there is confusing, So I said, I'm going to build my own. I'm going to research. This is going to be my path for the next few years. I'm going to go and research everything I can about, feeling fulfilled, feeling inspired, feeling good inside, but, building my what I call my emotional pillar, like how I feel inside. And one of the things, and so I built this method. I built this framework, which I call the 7 pillars. One of the things I realized, and I realize now, is like we are so limiting ourselves by not expressing our full potential of who we could be. And in many ways, I always have been, but I had been limited. I kind of limited myself in so many areas to stereotypes of, life is about my family, my job, a few hobbies, a few things, and that's it. But inside of me, there was such a force. There was such a creative energy. There was such a power that was just compressed, was pushed down, not expressed. Because could I be doing that and this and this and this? Can I be so much broader as a person, as a human being, than these couple labels or buckets that I convince myself and people convince me, and everybody look around and we say, yeah, that's it. So what I started to do was just started unlocking them one by one. I followed my inspiration where suddenly, and I'm an idea person, I'd have an idea and something got me all inspired. And, for those of you who follow me on my different YouTube channels, I've been always passionate about beautiful places. That's why I'm here, and real estate projects. And so I built there, and I was like, oh, you know what? Let me create a YouTube channel and just kind of have all these stories and all these learnings I can share to, anyone who wants to listen. And so I started that on the side, on evenings and weekends. I got a full-time job, and I'm full on at my job. So all of this has just been on top on the side. And I was like, you know what? This method I've built, it's transformed, who I am, and I should share it. So then I wrote a book, actually. Too long. It was 1,000 pages. It was way too heavy. It was so filled of science and research and the rest that I could find. So I had to then rewrite it down to more telling the stories and about the 7 pillars and the framework. And then I was like, okay. And I started seeing what's happening out there in the world, and artificial intelligence coming in and trying to teach my kids about it. And I said, well, maybe I'll create some videos for them, because unfortunately they don't live with me because I was divorced. And how best, to explain something. So I'll start creating some videos. I created another YouTube channel and then started videos about the tools and the AI. And, and I have this video in a month, 2 months, it's like 20,000 views, and people are like, it's great. What am I trying to say? I'm no different. I'm not special. I mean, maybe I am in a way where I decided to just do these things that inspire me and put them out there, and not to make money, not to just because it's what fires me up. It's like the energy. And I share it with people. They look at me like, what the hell? Where do you find the time? I said, it just depends how you spend your time. And me, I had suppressed all this energy of all these dimensions myself, all these ideas. And now I'm like, I'm going to put them out there, put them out in the world. And you know what? If someone likes it, if someone doesn't like it, it's fine. If someone thinks, yeah, this video right here is a waste of their time, it's fine. For me, it's about, I saw something. And I just saw how we limit ourselves when I look around and see people, and we just have these blinders on about what life is. And when you let what's coming from within, what inspires you, when you put it out in the world, just incredible things happen, like connections happen, and it, one thing leads to another thing, and it unlocks something else. And I found like I can be a senior executive in a company at the same time, a father to my children, at the same time a husband to my wife, at the same time, writing a book and doing real estate projects and having 3 YouTube channels and creating a t-shirt and a hoodie company and more, to be honest. But for me, you also have to understand who you are inside. And for me, there's this creative energy to put things out there. I see something and I get excited. I've always loved telling stories. It's always been part of me, but I had nowhere to tell my stories. I was like thinking, you know what? People don't care about my stories, but maybe they do. Or maybe even if one person out there, you know, I'm here, it's beautiful, I'm walking, and at the same time, so I'm doing two things for me. Is I love going to beautiful places, I love feeling inspired, and I have now a way to tell stories. And that's a part of it's a dimension of me where I'm opening up to tell these stories. And there's so many different ones. In that 1,000-page book, there's the research, the science, what studies show, and then the framework I built, but then tons of stories of how I came upon these elements, how I used them in my life, what it did to me. And every time I sent, to some friends the draft of the book, and they would say the science is great, but actually the stories is really what brings it to life. So I thought I'd start sharing. And I know it might sound just like a crazy ramble, which it is, well, but that's fine. That's, again, it's just a way for me to put out there onto YouTube and see if this is interesting for anyone, and if not, it's fine. You know what? It also helps for my children down the line to tell the story of who their father was. What did he believe in? What are the lessons he learned? What did he want to share? And it's hard. You have teenage kids, and you want to have a conversation in the car, and they're like, Dad, I want to listen to my music. And I'm like, okay, well, there's so much that I've learned in life through, experiences I would love to share, and they listen, but half ear, or they're not interested, but maybe later. I also see, I became much more interested in my father. My parents were divorced, and my father lived in the US, I was in Switzerland, and I only saw him in the summer. And later in life, I became more interested in his work, what he wrote, who he was, etc. So maybe later they'll watch this and say, hey, this is interesting. So, we'll see. So I'll keep sharing some stories, some reflections about past, but also present, or what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing, what I've experienced, what I've learned. So I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in a future video. Thank you for watching.